Motrolics.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Cadillac Society podcast, the show where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and anything else surrounding the iconic luxury marque. I'm your host, G, and today we're joined by Cadillac Society Executive Editor Alex Luft.
Hello. It's great to be back for episode 2.
Today, we're going to discuss the upcoming 2025 Cadillac Escalade refresh. Alex, take it away.
Yeah, with pleasure. Before we get into what to expect for the refresh, which I'm going to walk through exterior, interior, powertrain, tech. I'm going to walk through all of that here in just a few minutes. But first, I'd like to just start with an overview of what the Escalade is for Cadillac. And what it is its most popular nameplate. So the Escalade is Cadillac's most popular model. It is also the most profitable nameplate for Cadillac. And that combination right there, so the best selling and the most profitable, that combination does not come around very often in the automotive luxury space. You look at Cadillac's primary competitors. You look at Mercedes, you look at BMW, you look at Audi, Lexus, so on and so forth. You look at, for instance, Mercedes. So Mercedes has their best-selling car. It's the C-Class. But the car that Mercedes is most known for, I would argue, is the S-Class, right? Everyone wants an S-Class, but what they end up buying is the C-Class. Same thing with BMW. BMW, it's most known for the 3 Series. Guess what its most popular vehicle is? The 3 Series. You look at Audi, maybe some people want an A8, but guess what? They're buying A4s and A5s. And Lexus, same thing. They might want the LX, they might want the LS or the LC, but Lexus's best seller is the RX and the NX. So, and sometimes, depending on how you look at it, years ago, the ES. And those are all entry-level models. For Cadillac, it's different. And Cadillac really has a major competitive advantage because of this. Its most popular model is also its most expensive model, not counting the upcoming Celestiq, not counting the upcoming Escalade IQ, the electric Escalade, not counting those. Currently, as we sit right now, the Escalade is selling like hotcakes, and it's also the model that's getting Cadillac the money that it needs to do whatever it needs. So the reason that all of these, we see Lyriq, Optiq, Celestiq, none of these would be possible if it were not for the Escalade. Long story short, the Escalade is, not only is it iconic, not only is it Cadillac's longest running nameplate, not only does it sell like, hotcakes, and not only does it rake in a ton of profit, but it also is as a result of all that, it's also the most important model. So what does that mean? That means that this refresh, Cadillac cannot get wrong, right? It needs to get it right. And the competitors are not sitting still. Even though the competitors are not sitting still, they're still far away. So they're sitting far away. You kind of, the Escalade's kind of looking at them. The Escalade's king of the hill, and everyone else is at the bottom. So just to put that into numbers, the Escalade's primary rivals are the Lincoln Navigator, the Infiniti QX80, and the Lexus LX. So the Navigator doesn't really sell that well. The Infiniti sells just about as well, sometimes a bit less than the Navigator, and the Infiniti and the Lexus sells even worse. It's like at the bottom of the barrel. And oftentimes, when all of these automakers report sales, and we track these sales very closely at CadillacSociety.com, we put together the sales reports, for essentially how the Escalade is performing against each one of those other models. And what we often see is the Escalade outsells not just one of those models, it outsells all of those competing models. Combined.
Wow.
Combined. Heavy. Not individually. The outsells them individually, like with no sweat. But sometimes you add up the Infiniti, the Lincoln, and the Lexus, and you get less than what the Escalade and the Escalade ESV sold together during that quarter. And that is impressive. So Cadillac essentially owns the lion's share of the market, right? And as a result of that, again, this refresh needs to be spot on. It cannot be off. It cannot, because this is Cadillac's bread and butter. It's golden goose. It's golden, golden cow, whatever you want to call it. The Escalade is it. So that's where the Escalade is. And by the way, everything I've just said, an interesting observation. So the Escalade already held this position that I just described. It's held that essentially starting with its fifth year on the market. But with the introduction of the current Escalade, the 5th generation, that has only become even stronger. It has only grown. So before, the Escalade would outsell everyone, individually. Now it outsells everyone combined. That's just how impressive of a product that is. And again, you don't find this anywhere else in the industry. Typically, whatever the luxury automaker's flagship vehicle is, it doesn't sell. It's not its best seller. For Cadillac, the Escalade is its flagship on the SUV side, and it is also its best seller. So Cadillac is in a very good position to, not only continue the dominance of the Escalade, but also to even strengthen it and gain even more sales. And so that brings us to what to expect from the 2025 model year refresh. Now, before I get into that, I know I've said that already before, but now I'm going to say it again. I would like to note that all the things I'm about to say, none of this has been announced. So there has not been an official announcement from Cadillac. I've not had a press briefing about this. I'm not under any embargo. This is things that I've learned through my sources. These are things that I've learned and picked up along the way, looking at other intelligence and gathering intelligence and speaking to sources. We have spy shots as well. So this is by no means official. So that's why we're calling this show What to Expect from the 2025 Cadillac Escalade refresh. And there is a lot to expect. First and foremost, let's start on the trim level side of the equation. So currently the Escalade is available in several trim levels, starting with the base, which is the luxury trim. And then it branches out kind of as part of that Y trim level strategy that Cadillac has adopted over the last few years. It essentially branches out into luxury, that branch, and then sport and V in that branch. So luxury as base, then premium luxury, then premium luxury platinum. And then on the sport branch, it's luxury as base, then it goes sport, then it goes sport platinum, and then it goes V. So that's the trim level structure currently. Everything starts with the luxury trim at the very base, at the very bottom. I would suspect, in fact, I would bet money that the luxury trim will go away as the base trim. In fact, what will actually happen is that the premium luxury trim will probably end up going away, and the luxury name just takes the place of the premium luxury trim today. So the difference is that there is no more, that stem, the Y, the vertical stem in the Y, that's gone. It just starts now as a V. And here you have, on the luxury side of the V, you have luxury and luxury platinum. And then on the sport side of the V, you would have sport platinum V.
Why would you say you would see that move, though?
Yeah, there's two reasons. The first is that Cadillac, for the past few years, they have been trying to simplify their trim level structure. And the latest result, let's look at, say, the new optic that was announced last week, right? We will have a show about that in this week. So the optic is only available as sport and luxury and sport. So there is no premium luxury. It's just luxury and sport, and that's it. The same thing is true for the refreshed 2025 Cadillac CT5. No base luxury trim, just premium luxury, sport. And then sport branches out into V, and then that branches out into V Blackwing. But the point is, again, no base luxury trim. Look at the 2024 Cadillac XT4. That model, refreshed for the 2024 model year, it started out as luxury, premium luxury sport. So it had that Y. For the 2025, luxury is gone, and it will just be premium luxury and sport.
So you're seeing that already
The cadence, I'm seeing the cadence. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of see the pattern here, right?
Anything else? I mean, is it
Yeah,
that there, like
there is. Yeah, there is. It's a great question. So the other thing that I think is leading up to this is the fact that there really isn't a need for a base Escalade.
Well, why do you say that?
Average transaction price. So the ATP for the Escalade, I want to say for all of 2023 calendar year and thus far year to date 2024, I don't recall seeing a month where the Escalade average transaction price has dipped below the $100,000 mark.
100,000?
100,000.
Wow.
So the average that people are paying for an Escalade, a new Escalade off the lot or the showroom floor of a Cadillac dealership, new, is $100K plus. As a result of that, I wonder if, the bean counters in GM, if the business people inside of GM, they might crunch numbers and they say, if we just did away from that with that base model, if we discontinued that base model and we replaced the units that we're currently building, getting, 85K for that base model, instead of doing that, let's just replace it and build more higher contended models because people seem to be wanting to pay that much for the vehicle. Why not just do that and make more money in the process? And the people who would otherwise get the base, well, those guys can go, gals, whatever, they can go to, a GMC Yukon. They can go to a Chevy Tahoe. They can go to a Chevy Suburban. In fact, the Chevy Tahoe and Suburban, the high country trim, which is the highest trim within those models, those are also getting a refresh for the 2025 model year. And that high country trim, it's actually going to be better equipped for the 2025 model year. So maybe that is a worthwhile consideration that within GM as a whole, they're managing.
It's a very interesting move. It's a very interesting move because, I mean, it's you're talking about giving away the entry point to your flagship, your number one selling vehicle. Mm-hmm. You're giving that entry point away, and you're literally just locking into these two choices that you're going to break down a little bit further on in a bit. But this is some very exciting changes that are coming up.
Yeah, I think we're going to see something like that. I don't know if it's exactly going to play out with premium luxury or luxury replacing premium luxury or luxury going away entirely and premium luxury staying in that Y trim level, V trim level strategy. But I have a feeling that something is afoot. Let's leave it at that. Exterior next.
Let's bring it up. So we got the front fascia coming up.
Yeah, let's talk about the front. I think the biggest changes from the exterior standpoint is at the front end. And here you will essentially see the front fascia of the Escalade IQ get carried over into the internal combustion engined Escalade. So you'll still have different grills, even though the grills are going to be new as well. So you'll still have a grill for premium luxury, you'll still have or luxury, whatever it ends up being called. You'll still have a grill for sport. You'll still have a separate grill for the premium luxury platinum. You'll still have a separate grill yet for the Escalade V. But the fascia as a whole, what I'm about to describe is going to be common to all the models, save for chrome versus black or body color trim. So what we'll see is an entire overhaul of the front fascia. We'll see horizontally oriented turn signals. These are turn signal indicators. They're not the headlights. And this is a common mistake. I think people.
That was a previous spot for the headlight, correct?
Yeah, it was, but it was thicker. It was deeper, or I guess taller. Now you're going to see the headlight cluster begin to become more squinty. Essentially, it's going to get thinner, and as a result of that, no longer be the headlight. It will now just be the turn signal indicator, and if you turn it on, you'll have the hazard indicator as well. So that's what's taking place here, the horizontally oriented part of the front fascia on the lighting side. Below that, you will see this vertically oriented cluster. And this cluster is really where the entire forward lighting story comes into play for the refresh. So on the very outside of this cluster, you will have the daytime running light, that the DRL, right? And it also serves as Cadillac's signature accent light. And, for the past, 10 years or so, Cadillac has been going into essentially making these vertical lights its signature design element. Nothing on the road compares. When you see the vertical lights on the front, whether it's on an ATS or a CTS or a CT4, CT5, XT5, XT6, XT4, Escalade, right? Doesn't matter which model. That, probably is a Cadillac.
It's very distinguished. I mean, you can see them coming down, and it's one of those things your eye immediately draws to. Those clean lights that they're running now. Now, the light that they're using in these is a completely different technology, if I'm understanding it correctly?
It's all LED. So, I mean, currently it's all LED on the Escalade anyway, and I don't expect them to go to incandescent all of a sudden. So I expect this to be LED through and through. To the inside of this daytime running light / accent light, you're going to have the actual forward lamps. So the forward headlamps, the actual headlamps, are going to be on the inside of this DRL, and that's where you'll have the low beam as well as the high beam lights. Okay, so that's the front end. That's the headlights, the front fascia. I believe the hood might get changed somewhat because of the kind of the clamshell treatment within the horizontal lights and the grille, but I'm not quite sure about the hood yet. I will also note that the comms fin that's mounted currently on the roof just above the driver, that fin will be redesigned. So it will go from a fin to a kind of a puck.
A little more low profile?
A little more low profile, a little more stubby, I guess. And there is a reason for that. The reason is that it's actually going to house an entirely new antenna that will be capable of connecting to 5G networks. So the Escalade is going 5G.
Very impressive.
Yep, that's obviously going to have the typical improvements in speed, in speed within the vehicle, whatever services you want to access, whether it's the built-in Wi-Fi. Now it's currently 4G LTE based. Now it will be based on 5G. Any services within that big screen that they may offer, mapping, maybe movie streaming for the front passenger, maybe traffic and weather conditions, point of interest lookup within the navigation. All that stuff obviously is powered by and driven by 5G. Well, 5G is here. So that is the fin. On the side of the refreshed Escalade, there's not going to be any changes. No changes to the body, no changes to the trim, to the mirrors, to the doors, nothing as far as I can tell. But there will be a new set of wheels, 24s.
Those are nice and thick, very thick, because they do fill out that wheel well very well. And this is not the only place we're seeing 24-inch wheels. We're seeing it in a few different models.
I think it will be, yeah. So first, within the Escalade, and this is something that CadillacSociety.com actually we reported on, the fact that the Escalade refresh will get 24s. We reported on this like 2 or 3 years ago. This has been, it's to me it's old news that this is happening. So if you want to be on the cutting edge of these news, just read CadillacSociety.com and you'll be set. But
that's the trick.
That's the trick. That's all it takes.
I'll make sure that not only do I visit, my friends visit too.
Yeah, that would be great. Get your friends to visit. CadillacSociety.com. All right. So 24s, right? 24s, there will not just be one design. There will be a few designs, one for, I suspect, whatever the luxury trim will be, another for sport, probably yet another for premium luxe or luxe platinum, and then there will be at least one 24-inch wheel design for the Escalade V. So there will be at least 3-4 different wheel designs of the 24-inch wheels. And this is a pattern that's kind of starting to form within GM proper. So first within Cadillac, you have the Escalade. You're going to now have the Escalade IQ. The Escalade IQ was the first to have been announced with 24-inch wheels. The Celestiq uses 23s. So that's a sedan on 23-inch wheels. Impressive. Big wheels for a sedan.
Very
right?
impressive.
Mm-hmm. And then, the Escalade ICE is the next one to get it. So it started with the Escalade IQ, now going to the ICE Escalade. Like you said, big wheel wells. There is a lot of space in there. The bigger wheels will result in a lower profile tire that I suspect is being developed specifically for the compound within that tire is being developed specifically for the Escalade, and therefore being probably a TPC spec tire, the tire performance criteria specification that was developed specifically for a particular model, not like your typical off-the-shelf tire. And then, further on, broader within the GM portfolio, we see that 24s are being adopted on the Silverado EV, right? The Sierra EV. And I think currently that is it. The Hummers do not currently offer a 24-inch wheel. But I suspect that whenever, the Tahoe, for instance, the Suburban, the Yukon, all of those, when they go EV, they're going to offer a 24-inch wheel as well.
It's impressive seeing 24-inch wheels rolling off of the assembly line from the manufacturer without having to go aftermarket.
Yeah. In my lifetime, it's been, if you want anything bigger than 22s, even 22s sometimes, you want to get 22s, you're going to go to aftermarket third party, and get those wheels. And sometimes you have luck with those. Other times they fall apart on you, and because they don't really manufacture them to the same specifications as an OEM would. I say would because there are some exceptions. There are some really crappy big wheel options from some OEMs, including GM, but not for Cadillac. Corvette, I'm looking at you. C7, Corvette. Grand Sport, Z06, ZR1, I'm looking at you.
We saw that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, you would go anything bigger than 20s, you would want to go aftermarket. But now you're going to see 24s from the factory. 24s.
That is very exciting to add that to that refresh for a nice engine. Because, from what I had seen, I'm like, man, the only way to get these, you got to go EV. Or you have to go aftermarket. But this is offering it, and it's looking great.
It is. Well, what's the benefit? Besides the appearance, the exterior appearance, what's the benefit to going to 24s? And there are some trade-offs there. So the trade-offs are, first, you might end up with better handling characteristics. So the lower profile the tire, the better handling you will have. And that is very welcome news on high performance applications. So like Escalade V on 24s with low profile tires probably will be very, very good because it will increase, I suspect it will increase the ability of the vehicle to handle. You're still dealing with a body on frame vehicle here, and whatever help you can get there would help. Now, for those who are not getting the V and who want, a more relaxing driving experience, how will the 24s with the lower profile tires, how will that now impact those vehicles? And that's obviously, to be determined. But I suspect that the refresh will also take into account these 24s, and the chassis folks will go to work in tuning the suspension and tuning the chassis to account and accommodate these 24-inch wheels with the lower profile tires, so that you essentially get a smooth driving experience still. Typically with smaller wheels, you had more sidewall, and engineers on the chassis side have told me countless times, not just at GM, across the industry, they've said, we've relied on the sidewall of the tire to do a lot of the work that the suspension should otherwise have been doing. And, well, when you get to a wheel like the 24s here, well, you now have the ability to dial that in. Stop relying on the sidewall. Start making your suspension do the work that it's supposed to be doing. In the case of the Escalade, magnetic ride control, it's very capable of being tuned to whatever it is that needs to be done. If there needs to be a smooth ride, put it in tour, the dampers will do their thing, as long as they're tuned to do that, right? I suspect that they will have no problem doing their thing. At the flip of a button, you go to, sport, and all of a sudden the entire character of the vehicle changes. You start getting sharper handling, sharper responses, all that stuff. So I actually am not that afraid of the negative impact on ride quality by the 24-inch wheels and their respective tires. I actually think that here you will end up with a better ride, because all of this depends on the fact that the chassis people will actually end up doing a proper calibration and proper tuning on that. But if they do it, and GM has been very good lately, they've really honed in on the chassis. If they do that, then I think they'll knock it out of the park.
That's an impressive combo, that fine-tuned chassis with the 24-inch wheels. This is something that you're expecting, that tuning to come along with those wheels to be able to enjoy this new upgrade that we're receiving for 2025.
Yeah. Just so it's not just visual, right? There needs to be, if it's visual, if you have big wheels and it seems like you're in a train,
it's not worth it
on a luxury product.
Correct.
Right. So yeah. Outback, I do expect to see a few minor changes here, starting with the Chimsel, the center high mounted stop lamp, the Chimsel. Essentially, either the Chimsel is going to be redesigned, or the spoiler that houses the Chimsel will be redesigned, the roof mounted or liftgate mounted spoiler. I say that because the spy shots that we've gotten our hands on recently, they actually show some kind of a difference within that center high mounted stop lamp. In addition to that, the taillights. So the taillight housings will carry over, meaning that the cutout, the shape, the way that they're currently done on the pre-refreshed Escalade, that will carry over. But what will be new is the graphic, the LED graphic within those actual housings, and then some minor stuff on the liftgate. So I do expect the spot right below the rear glass, the glass on the rear liftgate, there should be a new trim piece right around there. And then there should be a little change to the trim piece right above the license plate or below the logo at the rear. And then finally, the only remaining change to the exterior that I can think of is the lower fascia. So within the lower fascia, there will be kind of a redesigned, that little plastic bumper cover that spans the width of the vehicle. And within that, you'll see new reflectors, new trim for the reflectors on some models. I think that will be most notable on the luxury or premium luxury trims, where you actually have that chrome, bit running and wrapping the reflector, and new exhaust treatment for non-V models. So Sport will have a new exhaust treatment. Luxury/premium luxury will also have a new kind of exhaust treatment. Just the shape of that exhaust finisher towards the end of the fascia. And I think that is it on the exterior.
But we do have some very interesting stuff happening in the interior.
Yeah, there is a coast-to-coast display. This is something that we have also reported over at CadillacSociety.com. I don't know, 2 years ago, roughly. I want to say that before there were any spy shots, before there were any hey, it's gonna get it. Someone's reporting something. No, we got this stuff years ago. So if you want to stay in the know, CadillacSociety.com is where you want to go.
And you got to tell your friends about it.
You do. You really do. So yeah, coast-to-coast screen. Let's start with that. So on the screen itself, this is going to be a 55-inch screen. Now, the pre-refreshed Escalade features a curved 38-inch screen. It's an OLED screen. It actually is comprised of 3 separate screens to make up that curved screen. And that's not to be confused, by the way, with a 33-inch LCD screen that is also curved. That is in the Lyric, that's now in the 2024 XT4, that's now in the 2025 CT5, that's going to be in the Vistic, that's going to be in the Optic, and that's going to be in the Chinese market, next generation CT6 and XT5. And I do suspect that if we ever do see a refresh for the XT6, which I do expect to see one, I expect this 33-inch display to also make it there. So that's the 33-inch display. It's LCD. This one is a 55-inch. So this is the coast-to-coast, pillar-to-pillar screen spanning the width of the dash, essentially.
This is impressive.
Yeah, it is impressive. It's impressive because it presents itself so well. When someone is going in to buy a car and they've never, gotten their hands on it, they've never sat in it, they've never done anything there, right? They've seen pictures, But when you get into one of these and you start it up and that screen comes to life, it's just like, sold. Just take my money. Take my money now.
You get that movie theater experience every time you flip the key.
Yeah, I mean, look at that display, right? I mean, it's huge. It's huge. And for those who are undoubtedly gonna ask this, yes, there will be a coating. There is a coating that prevents the driver from seeing what the front passenger has in front of him or her. So that's not going to be a distraction. Don't worry about that. But yeah, essentially this screen starts where the current Escalade's current 38-inch screen starts, right around the AC vent on the driver's side towards the edge of the door. And then it runs all the way to the same point on the passenger side of the car. So it's coast to coast, pillar to pillar, 55 inches. And there's going to be another screen. As if all that wasn't enough, there will be another screen below it in the center stack that will control the HVAC, the climate control of the Escalade, essentially. So you're getting now 2 screens to replace the 38-inch screen that's in the pre-refresh Escalade. And as a result of these changes, you're also going to get a few other things. So for instance, the entire center stack is redesigned with new air vents, new AC vents, all that. That also carries over into the passenger side of the Escalade, where you have this kind of horizontally oriented lines now, very neatly, nicely done with new vents, AC vents completely redesigned here. And you'll also see it's a much better, cleaner execution of the kind of the dash area than the pre-refresh model is. And I'm not criticizing the pre-refresh model. I actually think it's actually pretty good. But this just takes it to a whole new level.
It's extremely clean. It's very sharp. The lines flow beautifully. I mean, it was interesting that we were talking about the 5G addition, that puck that they were adding. Now we understand the need to have 5G in a vehicle with so much technology.
Yeah, it's coming in together. This is the, one thing empowers the other while the other thing empowers something else. So beyond the screens, you also have a new center console. So new center stack, new center console, new dash for the passenger as well. The shifter moved to the column. Now this isn't a column shifter like the K2 generation Escalade where, you're pulling it and pushing it.
Kind of like what I have on my truck.
Mechanical. Yeah, it's not that. Okay. This is digital. It's smooth. It's luxurious. It's high tech. It feels great.
But it's still on the column shifter.
It's still column. Yeah. But you move it about, 2 centimeters worth, an inch. Okay. Yeah. And you can currently, see it now on the Lyriq. The Escalade IQ will have it. A few other Cadillac vehicles will get it. I assume eventually the entire lineup will get it. So that brings me to the center console. Center console completely redesigned, both in terms of materials and in terms of the actual design, meaning what's where. You'll still have the rotary controls, so the smaller one for the volume, the bigger one to control the what's now on the 55-inch screen. So you'll still have both of those, which is nice. And by the way, that bigger rotary knob is getting a whole new treatment. It's essentially getting the treatment like a kind of a crystal, like a nice fine jewelry kind of thing, where currently the rotary shifter is there, it's present and accounted for, but this looks like they really put some attention and some money into it. It's got a nice Cadillac crest on it. It looks good. It's not your typical copy and paste from a controls and materials standpoint. And then you'll have cup holders and a phone charger here and some other things here and there. And that essentially is the center console. And then that brings me to the wheel. So the steering wheel, like you said, all new controls, new Super Cruise indicator along the top of the steering wheel itself. The buttons are completely redone. The controls are redone with this kind of, again, this jewel-like quality to them that I can see on the buttons, the silver or metallic buttons on the steering wheel, as well as on the rotary shifters within the center console. So a lot of attention to detail here.
Beautiful theme, and I like it how they continue to follow the theme through everything you touch and see. Is refreshed, maintains that same super high luxury theme. And I mean, I hadn't noticed the crystal finishes on the knob, but they also added a couple of accents on the steering wheel as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have a X7, a BMW X7 that competes with the Escalade. It's when I was talking earlier, by the way, about sales figures, I didn't include the unibody model. So I didn't include the X7. I didn't include the Mercedes GLS because those are not body on frame. They're a bit smaller than the Escalade as well, and I didn't include it. But nevertheless, my X7 has a crystal, I forgot what they call it, but it's a crystal shift. The shifter itself is crystal. So it feels like an actual crystal in the hand. And it just elevates. Like every time I get behind the wheel of the car, I have to touch the shifter, right? That's the one thing, along with the steering wheel and the door handle and a few other things maybe here and there, that I will end up touching no matter what I do with the car, right? So every time I get in, I shift it into reverse or shift it into drive, and I have to touch the shifter in my X7, and guess what? It feels great.
You get that premium luxury feel.
It just reminds me, hey, this is, we're dealing with something nice, something special here.
This is why you spent what you spent.
Exactly.
It feels good to spend and actually receive,
right?
Which they're delivering, from what I can see.
Speaking of delivering, I also expect there to be improved interior materials all throughout the Escalade, not just these little touches here and there. I expect the door cards to be improved, so the materials in the door cards to be improved. Again, the current model already is beautiful. It has nice wood, aluminum, trim, carbon fiber in the case of the Escalade V, but there's still room for improvement, and I think this Escalade refresh for the 2025 model year will actually end up improving on that even further. And then the last thing I'll note on the refresh as it relates to the interior is that there is probably, I don't have any confirmation of this, but I personally expect there to be a new premium seating package of some kind, maybe an executive rear seating package. And so what that would entail is the following. So currently you could get an Escalade with 2 front seats, 2 captain's chairs in the middle row, and a 3 across bench in the third row. There's an opportunity to finagle with the second and third rows. Personally, what I would do if I were them is I would offer a model that removes the third row altogether, pushes that second row back roughly to where the third row was mounted before, or maybe a little bit before that. But do give those second row passengers more legroom, more space, and then offer very comfortable second row seats. They don't even need to fold flat. All right, this is the executive seating package. You will never fold those seats flat because you're not using this as a pickup truck. You're using this for execs. You're using this for business people. You're using this for, transport stars, movie stars, whatever, singers, what have you. So there is an opportunity there. This is what I would do if I were Cadillac. And then, call it a day. I think that in and of itself will give all of those changes combined, exterior and interior, they will give the Escalade another, 5 years easy on the market.
Let me ask you, is the powertrain getting any type of revision?
Great question. Yes, there will be one change that I expect, and that will be the second generation turbo diesel Duramax engine. So currently the Escalade from 21 through 24 model years, again, it's run the LM2. That's the production code for the turbo diesel Duramax. It's a 3-liter Duramax. In my opinion, not counting the Escalade V, which is its own beast, right? Faced with a choice between the 6.2-liter naturally aspirated gasoline engine, the L87, and the turbo diesel 3.0 LM2, I would actually pick the LM2. I would pick the diesel. For whatever reason, the LM2, and it's not for whatever reason, it's really specifically based on how much power and torque it makes and where it makes it in the RPM band. But the LM2 is such a sweetheart of a motor. It is the smoothest motor that I've driven in GM's body-on-frame T1 full-size SUVs like the Escalade. It's the best engine I've driven in those. Again, not counting the Escalade V. The Escalade V, if you're going to get the Escalade V, if you want 600 and something horsepower in your full-size SUV, by all means, go ahead and get that. But between 6.2 naturally aspirated and 3-liter turbo diesel, I would pick the turbo diesel every time. It's smooth. As an engine, it's smooth, first. Second, it delivers smooth acceleration. So with the L87, the 6.2 L87, you have plenty of torque. You have 460 pound-feet of torque, 420 horsepower. But the problem there is that you end up with a lot of secondary body motions just when it's accelerating. Like, you drive and you don't really notice it if you're driving the Escalade as your daily driver, but then you hop out of that and you jump into a unibody car that has roughly the same amount of power. You don't have that. You don't have the, nose high up in the air when you're under wide open throttle or close to it when you're under acceleration. You don't have the, all that stuff when you let off the throttle, then it comes back down. You don't have that with the diesel. You just don't have that with the diesel at all. That's why I would pick the diesel myself. And you get better fuel economy as well. So for 2025, you're going to get a new turbo diesel 3-liter Duramax engine. It's the LZ0. That's the RPO code on that one. And not only will it be more powerful and more torquey, but it will also have a few other improvements to it as well. So on the power side, we're looking at 305 horsepower on the LZ0. And that compares to 277 horsepower on the current LM2. So a slight increase in horsepower. But then there will also be a increase in torque. So it's going to go to 495 versus 460 for the current LM2. So you're looking at almost 500 pound-feet of torque in a sweetheart turbo diesel engine. This is not a 6.6 Duramax in a in a heavy-duty truck, right? This is not one of those big boy diesels. This is a sweetheart of a diesel engine. It purrs. It makes accelerating effortless. It's a little slow off the line because it's a turbo diesel and it's not huge. It's a straight 6, by the way. It's an inline 6, not a V. But holy crap, when it gets going and you want to apply some throttle, it's there.
She sings.
She sings. She purrs. It will also eliminate the long crank issue, which was common to the LM2, and that's where you're starting it up and it just cranks for like an eternity. Not an eternity. It's like 3 or 4 cranks. It's like da 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 da, and you probably just want it to fire up right away. The LZ0 will fix that. We've seen this on the Silverados. They've already launched with that and so on and so forth. And now for the final question. When will the 2025 Escalade launch? When will it be announced? And when will it go into production? So as far as the reveal or the announcement is concerned, I am told by my sources that it will be within the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. That's not something that Cadillac has announced. So I will put that out there. This is something that my sources are telling me. And then as far as production is concerned, same thing. There's no official production announcement. There's no official announcement at all about this vehicle as far as Cadillac is concerned right now. We're recording this on June 4th. But from what I know, November is when these will go into production. So start of regular production is currently scheduled for November of 2024.
Okay, sounds great. Well, that's it for our second episode of the Cadillac Society podcast. Thank you all for joining. You can find this show on CadillacSociety.com and Metrolix Network YouTube channel. We're currently working on getting this show into your favorite podcast apps. So if you don't see it in the one you use, just give us a few days and we'll get that taken care of. Stay tuned next week for our third episode about the all-new 2025 Cadillac Optic. And be sure to visit CadillacSociety.com for the latest news and forums.
Motrolix.